Alright guys, so this is the most likely the last installment of the chess series, video 3 of 3. So today we're going to be talking about endgame strategies. So, after the majority of the pieces are gone, and after, this is moved anywhere from like 20 to 50, so and onwards. So we're just going to be talking about some of the things you want to really hit and make sure you know. Number one is, like we talked about in the last video, trading pieces. You don't want to trade pieces if you're down pieces or down material. So black in this position would want to trade because they're up a pawn. The pawn, they have two nice pawn chains. On the queen side they have solid pawns, and on the king side it's pretty good too. What they really want to do is most likely trade down, and white would want to stop this. The second thing you want to really focus on in the endgame is not necessarily checking the king or checkmating the king at first, but you really just want to avoid blunders and avoid pins and skewers. So that's a good time to talk about what a skewer and a pin is. So say white just does a dummy move where the king is on b2 and the rook is on f2. This would most likely never happen, but say it does, black would most likely move knight to d3. Not only putting an attack on the king, but also an attack on the rook. So this would create a skewer because it would skewer the king and the rook. So in a pin would be this would be a bit harder to demonstrate. Say the knight moves down, or the rook moves down, and the rook was, say the white rook wasn't here and it moved down. This would be a pin on the knight. Then this knight, the white one could not move. The knight that's on d2, if it moved, the king would be in check. So you want to avoid letting your opponent get you in these situations. That's very important. You're always taught from playing chess that you want to have your king isolated, protected. But in the end game, it's actually quite useful to use as an actual piece. So activation of the king is very important. He can just be another player if you move. Both the kings would want to be active, and most likely might not make their way to the direct center of the board, but it would at least add on to the attack of both sides. And so the last thing you probably want to do is, like the last bit of knowledge, is just taking control of the game if you're up material. So taking advantage of the pawn advantage. That's, everyone kind of discards pawns, but especially at the end game, pawns are crucial because you're going to want to make a pass pawn, and that pass pawn would, hopefully become promoted to a queen. So a pass pawn is, say black just moves this and white for some reason captures the pawn on h5. Black would have a pass pawn now. This pawn now on g4. No other pawn can obscure it. And ideally, black would want to promote this all the way. So you want to avoid letting your opponent get pass pawns while trying to make yourself get them. So black would most likely want to transfer the attack and all of his pieces on the side of the two pawns. All right, thank you. That was the last installment of our chess series. Thank you.